Hi there, it's Matthew Blades, and I want to have a discussion about faith. It's not something that we all talk about very much, but I have been having something very interesting playing out in the background, and I just felt like I was supposed to share what I've been going through so that others might, feel like you're not alone in your journey when it comes to faith. So here we go. Growing up, Mom required us to go to church. It was just a thing we did. We were there for everything during the week, everything on the weekend. All my friends were church friends. I didn't go to Cub Scouts. I went to this thing called Awana, where you basically memorized Bible verses and stuff for badges. And I didn't mind it. In fact, I liked it until I didn't. And then, one day, maybe 12, 13 years old, it just didn't start to feel authentic for me. And there's reasons behind that. When I was growing up in the church, as I got a little bit older, I started to notice that some of the people I really looked up to didn't necessarily live that life away from the church. On Sunday, one version of them would show up, and the rest of the week, some other version would show up. And if I'm being completely transparent, I'm talking about people in my own family, which, I didn't understand growing up. That never made sense to me growing up. I didn't think about it. It's just one of those things when you're a kid and something's just off and you can't really explain it. And so you just go, no, I don't want to go. And I just didn't want to be a part of it. And I spent probably the next 10 or 15 years or so just really being in that space with church. I get that it works for some people. It just doesn't work for me. And then I started to, right around the time of my father's death, for people that don't know, my dad had a heart attack when he was just 47 years old. I was only 23. And it happened in front of me. I tried to save his life and I couldn't. And after that moment, which you can imagine was life-altering for me, I started to look back into faith a little bit more. And I started to really resonate with Buddhism. And I started becoming what you would call a bedside Buddhist, meaning that, I would read some books. I'd read some books from the Dalai Lama or Thich Nhat Hanh or some of these things and look into some teachings. But, I really just had my toe in the water. And more than anything, I just liked the way that it made me feel learning about another religion. And it was fascinating to me. And a lot of it really landed with me and still to this day does. And then something started to happen maybe 4 years ago. And it happened kind of all in culmination with a lot of the mental health situations that I had with myself 4 years ago. And when I was repairing my relationship with my mom, which was deeply damaged throughout the years for not only our religious disagreements, but just personality disagreements, right? When my mom died a couple of years ago, I talked about how living with my mom was equal parts war and peace. That was just our relationship. And 4 years ago, something happened and I just really wanted to put it back on the tracks. And so I made a really big effort to learn more and get into her head a little bit more about what she was thinking. And one of my favorite things to do was to call my mom on a Sunday morning and just ask her about church and see what they talked about and talk about how we could apply that to our lives for the next week. And I really grew to appreciate it. And then this thing started to slowly unravel where after my mom's death, I started finding some artists like Brandon Lake and Elevation Worship and Hillside Song and Tiffany Hudson and I'm Phil Wickham. I'm leaving a lot of these. I'm forgetting people that I'm really into, but I started finding a lot of comfort in this music. And look, to be truthful, I always have. I've said this for my whole life. I don't go to church, but I love church music. I love. Give me a good gospel song. Give me a good hymn. Give me an amazing choir backing somebody up, and I am all in. So that this music has always made me feel a certain way. It was just that in the last 2 years, it started to speak to me a little bit differently. And I have started to experience this little shift in my faith energy again. And here's the story. I ended up getting invited to go to this church out in Gilbert, the Grove. And I show up for this church. It was like bring a friend to church day. And so Anna and I went, and Anna's my friend. And I loved it. I mean, like, the church was super cool. The music was all the stuff that I love to listen to. The sermons were absolutely fantastic. The speakers were great. Like, the place just had an incredible vibe. And I experienced this incredible amount of joy. In fact, the first time that I went back to church, like, I literally started crying because I was thinking about my mom, and I was thinking about how much she loved church. And I was thinking about how amazing it would have been to, like, bring her to this place and experience this with her. She would have loved that so much. And I know what everybody's saying. She's right there with you, and she is, and I agree. For the past 6 months, I've been going every Sunday to the Grove, and I have been really into what I'm hearing, and I've been really connected to the stories that they've been sharing, and I find myself bubbling up with more and more joy every single week that I'm plugging into this thing. Today we had a speaker at the church, and he told this great story, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but basically he had to rent a car at the airport after a flight, and the guy said, here's the keys, 2024 Malibu, it's white, right down the way. And so he went into the car, and he tried to start it, and it wouldn't work, and he tried to start it, wouldn't work, tried to start, wouldn't work. And so he brought it back to the dude, and he said, the car won't work. And so they walked out there together, and the guy said, oh, man, that's the wrong Malibu. You're in this one, which was 4 cars away. And so we got right in that car, and of course, it started right up. And what the guy said today that just dropped the mic in the church was, a lot of us have the right key, but we're in the wrong car, right? Whatever's driving us in life, it's not the right thing for us anymore, and it's time to shift. And as I really think back, as an older, wiser man that I am, 51, 52 years old. I think I'm 52 now. I should probably know that. I'll look later. I've really come to appreciate and love my faith journey. It's been so fantastic to me to grow up one way, evolve into something else, disappear for a little while, evolve into something else, disappear for a little while, and come back into a relationship with Christ. And today, one of the other things they talked about is how, like, God pursues us, and I can't talk about it right now, but there's some things happening in my life where it feels like I'm being pursued right now. I feel like my hands are off the wheel and somebody else is driving. I feel like there is a shift taking place in not only how I feel about the world, because I think that my worldview, thanks to Buddhism and everything else, is pretty good. But there is a joy bubbling up inside of me that I can't explain. And I fought it, if I'm honest with you. I fought it for a few months and said, this can't be what you think it is. This is not that, but I can't help it. I think it is. And I'm okay with it. And I want you to know that you're not going to get exclusive Jesus content from me from now on. That's not the point. Because I really think it's more important how you live than what you say. But sometimes if you don't say it, people don't know where you stand. So there you go. How about that for a journey to Jesus? You just never know how it's going to work out. And who knows? I remain open. In 5 years, something else may find me that connects with me. And you know what? I'm the kind of person who will allow it in because I constantly want to find truth for myself. Not for others, not for the universal, but I'm constantly seeking that thing that feels right for me. And where I'm at right now is where I'm at. All right. I think I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening. And if you're going through a bit of a faith journey right now and you'd like to share it with me, I'd love to sit down and talk to you about it.